What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Blair Wiggins Outdoors and more. We're fixing to show you something that the East Coast has been lacking, and we're going to educate you a little bit on our redfish population. This is Dr. Todd Osborne from the Whitney Labs. I'm sure y'all are familiar with him with the Clam Restoration Project, but I'm going to let him talk, and we're going to show you what 2 million plus redfish look like.
Well, thanks, Captain Blair, for having me out today, and thanks for coming out to support this project. What's going on is up at the Whitney Lab, the University of Florida's lab up in St. Augustine, we had a big redfish spawn in our broodstock tanks. And this is not a funded project. It's actually a free situation where we've got millions of redfish larvae, and we want to put them back in their original home, which is right down here in the IRL. And the goal with this is thus that instead of, in most cases, they would just go down the drain, we want to put them back out and get them a chance to grow out here. And because we're doing so much with the Clam Project and with other projects here improving the lagoon, we figured, you know, why not bring these guys back to their original place? And
you say go down the drain, where most people, when they're trying to, you know, experiment and try to raise and do a spawn, most of the time those fish go right down the drain. And this time of year, we're in October, and it's the time of year where the redfish spawn. You get the temperature change a little bit out here in the Banana River, and we're going to be releasing them in an area where I know that the redfish used to spawn every single year, which is right off the Thousand Islands. And like you said, this is, instead of them going down the drain, this is not costing anybody a dime, just our time. So we're going to try to see what we can do. And you say there's what, 2 million?
Approximately 2 million in here, and they're only about 1 millimeter long, so they're tiny. But, you know, in nature, a single redfish could produce 1 million eggs, but only maybe 10% of those might actually get fertilized. In the laboratory, it's 100%. And so these are eggs from a couple of fish in our tanks. They've been spawning all week, and so we have like 100% fertilization rate in the laboratory, and now putting out 2 million fish could get us, you know, 3 or 4 or 5% of these guys surviving to full adulthood, which is a big plus.
What's the growth rate of these guys?
Well, these guys will be, I mean, right now, they look like little specks in the tank, right? But in a couple of months, you'll know they're little redfish.
Really?
And I expect that these guys will be rat reds next year and will contribute to the fishery here. One of the super cool things about this is we have been working with FWC to collect broodstock and to work through our processes. You know, Dr. Leonardo Ibarra Castro at UF Whitney Lab has been kind of pioneering some finfish aquaculture techniques, and usually we're not allowed to do anything with this, but FWC jumped on board at the 11th hour and helped us out big time, gave us permits to release these guys right back in the IRL. We're really grateful for them doing that, because that was an effort, but that allows us to put them back in and give them a chance.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. I can't wait to see these things in about 3 or 4 months. You say they're going to be about 4 inches in 3 or 4 months. But that's the most fish a Starbright bucket's ever had in it right there. Well, I guess the way to tell if it's going to be working is I've fished here a couple of times over the past few months, and I've caught 1 redfish. Luckily, it was a redfish about this big that actually caught it the other day, and he ate that top dog right there. But I haven't seen the little redfish, so.
Well, this time next year we need to do an experiment.
That will be the telling factor. If we can get out here and catch a bunch of 10-inch redfish, then we know this thing's working. We can keep it going. And you said you're going to keep how many back at Whitney?
So we have, again, without any funding for it, we're going to do a kind of a grow out in our own facility. So we're going to grow 30 to 40,000 up to 6 inches and release those guys.
And you told me an amount, how much it takes to get them up to
It takes size. About $2 to get to 6 inches long. You know, I mean, sometimes a little bit more depending on availability. You know, with the COVID and all of the kind of things that have been happening, supplies are difficult for everything. And so food is also one of those supplies that we're working on. But now when we go to release, the bigger they are, the better chance they have, of course, but it's a numbers game. So in today's effort, we put out millions, literally, and let nature feed them. And then when we do this kind of grow out through the facility, we're feeding them. A lot of people working on that, a lot of infrastructure costs, and so you end up with a couple of dollars per fish at that size. And both both strategies work.
Is Whitney going to have a separate fund for the fish release program?
Yes, we definitely want to do that, and we're going to encourage everybody that wants to help with that effort to jump on.
My help, tell them.
Yeah, well, we need your help. And that any donations that go to that redfish program will go to restocking here. Now we also can release in our own home waters in Matanzas River, which is a great fishery. But our goal is to get fish where we're needed, and this is where our broodstock came from. That's where we want to bring them back to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on. The broodstock that they went out and caught, what, 3-4 weeks ago?
Well, no, that broodstock is actually with CCA over on the Gulf Coast,
okay.
And they're growing. Their program collected fish with the help of a lot of you guys here. Collected great broodstock. They took them back. They're going to spawn them. Probably doing it right now. And they're going to grow out in their facility with Duke Energy, and they're going to bring those fish back next year. We're working on some techniques to optimize the spawning process through research, and so the tail end of that, the products of that, are all the juveniles that we released today. And so we're going to just piggyback onto that effort and utilize that effort to provide fish here.
Sounds good.
Everybody's working in the same direction, man. I think it's all good.
The redfish that were spawned up there are from
here.
Indian River, Banana River, Mosquito Lagoon. Cool. So we got the same genetics. So when the big redfish are back in here again, when these guys grow up, we'll have those big giant schools. And I remember when I was guiding, back in the early 90s, there was schools of 2,000 redfish, and they're all 40 inches here. So hopefully we get that back. We're going to go get another load right now and bring them back and send them to the south side. See you in a bit. And in the wild, when they spawn and you say 10% get fertilized, what percentage of those 10% make it to rat red size?
Maybe less than 10%. So you're looking at less than 1% of what actually gets through there. And those are estimates. A lot of this we don't really know, but the competition and the predation on these is tremendous. And so when we can get them to this stage and then put them out in good habitat, that's like 2 legs up.
We're putting them in the best spot we can in the mangroves where they would end up if they were naturally spawned. Now the thought is, with this northwest wind we got coming in and releasing them here, it's going to blow all this larva back up in there. They're going to get around all the little mangrove roots and shoots and all where they can be protected, and they have a lot better chance for survival. And I like the fact that, all these are fertilized, and when we dump them out here, they're larvae. So they've already made the journey where they normally spawn in that 6 to 8 foot of water right out here. They have to make that journey once they get fertilized to get up in here where they can grow up. So this is their natural habitat when they're this size. So all we're doing is helping them out for free. Did we stress that enough? On these, and is there any way to tell if these people catching these, if they come from the
Well, they all say Blair Wiggins on them, on their tail and little tattoos.
Yeah, they all got a red dot. All right, we'll see y'all on the water. That's a bunch of redfish released. How many redfish have you released in your lifetime? We just did 2+ million. Dr. Todd, thank you very much. Sabrina, thanks for coming along. My wife, Carrie, thanks for coming out helping, and my son behind the camera, Drayden. Awesome job. Y'all keep your fingers crossed. We should have a pretty good brood of redfish coming up in the next couple years with these, what we just released. So whatever you can do to help the Whitney Labs, they are doing awesome stuff up there with the clam restoration project here in the Indian River, redfish release programs. We're talking right now, what we're wanting to do next is possibly trout, sea trout, and get those back in here as well. This was once known, this area right here in the Indian River, Banana River Lagoon system, this area right here was once known as the trout capital of the world. I mean, you could come out and go off at any dock, any sandbar, any place, put a shrimp on a hook, catch a
Now I've heard a rumor that you caught a pretty monster trout here one time. How big was that fish?
14.5 pounds.
There you go.
Let's get them giant mustard mouths back. So we'll see y'all on the next release, whether it be clams, trout, or redfish. Adios.